So here's another computer that I recently bought, and it has a 4090. It has a 13900K. Now the only issue with it is that it is extremely dusty, as you can see. Like, I'll rub my finger right here. And that's something I'll clean out, and I have all the tools for that too. It's really just a compressor or canned air, something that'll get that grime off. But as you can see, it's really bad. And you will need a brush if you ever need to clean this stuff out, but yeah. And as far as pricing goes, I paid $1,700 for it. Now, profit-wise, I'm looking to sell this probably at $2,500 after all the touch-ups are done, of course. It's not gonna be sold as is. Otherwise, you can make it profit as is, but you make more profit if you take your time and put some, I guess, elbow grease onto your bills, you know? If you're looking for flipping computers, there's probably a lot of what you'll be doing anyway. But yeah, for now, this is a before. As you can see, it is pretty bad. And I'll update you guys on the after. So here's the computer after the clean. The fans are looking a lot cleaner. There's definitely no dust. I went on the bottom fan too. It's hard to see, but I cleaned everything. I took out the card. Nothing on the fans. The top ones too. The radiator I blew it from the top too. This took off all the dust. Every corner is clean. As far as the filters go, I cleaned them all out. And that is how it turns out. Now, as far as turning it on, I haven't even seen it yet, so this should be it right here. It seems to be like white. Yeah, that's how it came out. Also, another thing, like when you're cleaning these computers out, make sure you clean the back side of the case too. Don't just clean what you see, especially on the power supply, because there's like filters that help. It's for aesthetics though, but people ever look in the back and see that it's dusty, people are gonna know you didn't really clean this that good. So put some elbow grease into it and clean it out, and it'll turn out nice. And I honestly thought it was just the outline for the iQ. The 4090 too, it's a massive card too. I don't think it's as big as the Gigabyte one I showed earlier in another video. I'm probably gonna have to test it out and make sure everything's running good. Now, I did test it out in person, but there's an issue with that, is that you can't really get the full picture only testing it out for like 20 minutes. But at least it gives you some security knowing that the seller's willing to let you test it, and that usually means they didn't really have any issues with it and all that. But yeah, so far it's looking like a great find. So here's the computer I just showed on the video. As you can see, I took out pretty much all the fans. Now, it is really annoying that I had to do that, because it was literally because it was flickering. And then I looked at several tutorials. I reinstalled iQ, which is a software for Corsair. I pulled out 2 fans to see if it was maybe a power issue. I replugged the Corsair plugs into 2 separate SATA cables into the power supply, and still nothing. I tried several things and it just didn't work. It just kept flickering, and it was getting really annoying. And I asked the dude for a partial refund or anything. He hasn't messaged me back. So for now, I took out the fans. I gave this a quick clean. It still needs a bit more cleaning. But I'm gonna change these fans and put some Asian horse, FS9002, I think they're called. It's a weird name, but you know how technology is with all these numbers. They look really nice. I've had them before. Hopefully they're good on the radiator, but we'll check temperatures. If not, I'll put on some black fans that I have for static pressure. Another thing I did order online, which is coming in tomorrow, is the CPU mounting brackets. It's basically like a little plate that goes secure on the CPU. That way the thermal paste is more evenly distributed between the CPU. Also, from what I've researched online, because of those same retention spots that are right here, like over time, these CPUs kind of curve a bit. And so eventually over time, instead of being flat like this, where the thermal paste spreads out evenly, it's like this, and only the middle part is where it's getting thermal paste. And so that's what my understanding is, and I have tried it before, and it reduced temperatures pretty good. I think the last time it reduced it by like 5 degrees on the last build I worked on. That one came out great. Yeah, that's something I need to do with this one, especially because it's a 13900K. If it were any other processor, maybe a 13700K, I probably wouldn't bother that much. Because these 13900Ks are known to have issues and this and that, I'd rather keep it cool for the rest of the time the buyer has it for, and hopefully it lasts them like 10 years, 20 years. I know 20 years is kind of crazy because even innovation probably makes it technology obsolete within 5, but you know, it's always good to wish that for your clients and all that. But yeah, this all sucks. Like, I really didn't have to do any of this just because it was flickering. And then the dude was simply like, dang, I never noticed that. And then I then told him like, hey, could you at least give me a partial refund? I understand I already haggled you down to $1,700, but it's something I didn't want to deal with. But he hasn't sent a message back, so I don't think he's a bad person for that. Like, at the end of the day, they're selling you the system as is. That's why when you go test out a computer, you need to make sure you're not rushed, which is another lesson I learned this time, because the dude I bought this computer from, he was a great guy. He seemed to be working for a company. He told me he was in HR and this and that. He kind of like, he didn't do it purposely because he had like things to do, right? But he was telling me how if I could finish within this set time frame, within like 20 minutes, he told me. And then I was like, yeah, I should be done. But then I noticed that the computer wasn't booting up with Unigen, which now I remember you had to download the drivers for the graphics card, and then it worked after I got it home. But now that I'm thinking about it, I paid $1,700, and then I'm willing to take a risk of buying something this expensive and finding something bad when I get home like this to waste another hour or a half. So another lesson learned is that when I'm dealing with computers over 1,000, I don't care what time constraint. Tell them I'd rather come another day, this and that. You don't want to be mean, but you have to test this out. This is going to be on you. So that's something I guess I learned. But you know, it's little habits. Like, I'm sure I'll mess it up next time, but over time the pain will get worse and worse and worse, and eventually you're gonna be to the next guy. You're gonna be like, no, I'd rather just come another day when you have time and this and that, because at the end of the day, I could have gotten scammed, really, because I only tested this GPU in Furmark. And I mean, it gives you a good idea temperature wise, but it's not worth it. Take your time with this stuff. At the same time, if you're spending as much as me, like I'm spending $1,700 on this build, so it's up to you to do your due diligence and this and that. It's not gonna be their problem, it's gonna be yours if you find something at home. Even though ethically they should like at least try to help out, or I mean, that's what I try to do when I sell a computer. If there's an issue within a week, I always tell people bring it back. There shouldn't be no issues, no nothing, no this and that. Now, if it's obvious that it's their fault, then that's when it gets kind of tricky. But I try my best to help out over the text, over the phone, and then sometimes if it's really bad, I tell them to come over here. I'll give a look at it and this and that. But these are the type of things you'll encounter. But it's worth the risk. Honestly, just remember, don't be like me and take your time when you're dealing with computers. Let's say over 800. Or if your budget is a lot smaller, do your due diligence, even if it's a $300 computer, because what I know is it takes a bit of time to learn, like the little maybe issues that certain components have, maybe how to fix certain things. And then if you don't know that at first, those little issues are gonna be so annoying to fix. So I would recommend when you're starting out, do your due diligence. Don't take risks like this. Do take risks, but just make sure you spend your time testing them. And if they don't want to let you test it out, like the other day or just yesterday, I was trying to buy a 3080, I think Ti from a guy. And then he was like, could you meet me at Cannery, which is like a casino near me or near him. And then I was like, yeah, it's somewhat close to where I live. But I wanted to ask if I could test it out, this and that. And then he was like, no, do you have a mobile way to test it? I'm like, no, I would have to either meet you there or you meet me at my house. If they're not willing to do that, then don't buy no cards. Like a 3080 Ti, the dude was asking $300. Okay, let's say it works. That's a great deal, but what if you buy a card and then it doesn't work and then it has issues, it's overheating, it's artifact and this and that? It's not worth taking the risk. Test the things. And then for GPUs, I think I might have covered it in a video, but it's basically, the tool I use is basically Unigen 4.0 Heaven, I think it's called. Furmark for temperatures. I'm sure there's other ones too. Like I remember one time, this really like great, I think the buyer was from Ukraine or something. He had just come over here to the United States, but he was testing it out with CPU-Z. He was looking at the numbers on there. on GPU-Z, as far as the GPU and CPU, to match like the numbers somewhat. But yeah, those are the 3 ways I've noticed to test these. Cinebench if you're testing the CPU, but just be careful. In general, most people aren't really there to scam you, especially if they let you test out the computer. I've said this before. If they're willing to let you test it on the setup, most likely, then there's nothing wrong with it. But if they aren't, then there might be kind of something sketchy going on, and so you need to not take that risk, in my opinion, unless it's a really good deal. So the fans just came in off Amazon. It is pretty late, and I'm pretty upset about that. I wanted to get this done earlier, but at least we have something to work on now, and we'll see how these go. I think I haven't had these for like 6 months, but we'll see, because it is in a different box, because this is like a 6-pack, but we'll see. Yeah, I'll update you guys on that. And yes, I do use like a toothbrush to clean this part out, which is not gonna be perfect, but gives it a better clean than this one, because this one's like ran through. So if you're curious about the quality of these fans, they do feel pretty light as far as the fan blade. So I'm kind of worried about how the airflow might be on the radiator, but I'm gonna give it a shot. But if not, I'll just put on some black fans I have laying around. They're thicker, but they look really nice. And the only issue I think I remember, and was the reason I stayed away from these, is because these are like kind of smaller than regular fans. At least when they turn on, they, oh, here, look, I'll give you guys an idea. So here it is installed. Now you see, it's kind of hard, but it looks like the fan is like smaller in diameter. So the RGB only lights up, like, look. See that gap? That's usually like where fans spill out, or maybe it's just gonna blur. That was my only issue with these from what I remember. They were like smaller than regular fans, so. But I mean, I think from what I remember, they look phenomenal though, so I have to give them that. But yeah, I'm gonna be testing out the radiator on the 13900K, and I'm gonna see how it goes with that. Because the regular Corsair fans, they work great, so if not, I'll just install those, worst case scenario. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So after looking into it, I decided to not go with these Asian horse fans, just because these are not PWM. So if I hook these up, it would have to be all connected to the CPU, because they do have like an entry to connect the PWM, but they don't have like 2 separate ones to separate, like say CPU cooler and regular case fans. So in which case they'll all be running in one speed, and I don't want to be running these fans at full throttle when it's only the CPU that might need the airflow. So that's why I just decided to get these off a radiator I had, and just put the black fans, and hopefully it'll help out too, because usually I always have a debate between putting RGB in the top or not, either way, because if you put lighting at the top, it kind of like it dims the light of the shit underneath it. So let's say this RAM stick, it wouldn't look as bright if there's lights up here, but if it's blacked out, it gives it contrast for every stick, everything lighting up in the bottom. So it's always a dilemma I have, but really doesn't matter really. But for now, we'll put these, we'll hook them up, we'll daisy chain them, and then put them on the CPU cooler, and hopefully that does the job. So here's the final build. And so I changed up 2 things, so, well, really 3 if you get technical, but I changed these. These had the ID cooling fans that I took off a radiator, but I found that they had an awful humming to them. And they were honestly pretty good though, like temperature still didn't creep up more than 95 degrees, but I ended up going with a friend to get these P12 Maxes. I also changed the LGA 1700 retention bracket, which is usually just to improve temperatures and prevent the CPUs from curving over time. And the last thing I changed is getting technical, just changing the thermal paste, which of course I had to do when I changed the bracket. But other than that, I mean, I'm pretty sure I already updated you guys on the fans. But in case you didn't, here is the final product. Let me back up a little bit. And we'll wait for the RAM to cycle into it, because iCUE takes a little bit to boot up. But as far as benchmarks goes, like the Cinebench score was really good, up to par. Even after the microcode patch, it still reaches like 36,000, which is pretty good. because most people tend to be getting like 34,000, 35,000 after the patch. So it's doing pretty good. As far as temperatures goes, like with the two fan AIO, we're getting around maximum of 90 degrees. With the Cinebench ran at 10 minutes on high priority. So that is pretty amazing. And before the fans, I think these black ones right here that I changed, they peaked at, I believe, 97 degrees, which is honestly pretty good too. But the drop in 90 is just a massive change, and it's always better to keep these CPUs cooler because at the end of the day, they're powerhouses. So, but yeah, here's the finished build, and I'm sorry for the glare. That's really my phone, and I'm thinking it's the RAM too. Like you can see the two sticks right there lining up. But yeah, that's it. The voltages were really good too. No instability at all. And I was looking for that, and that's something you need to worry about when you get these 13900Ks. But in most cases, I haven't found too many issues with them. And what's really good about this one is that it was a pre-built, and Corsair set their PL1 and PL2 limits 180 and 125, so it ran really cool. With the Corsair, or with the original Corsair fans, which were really bad, it ran really cool. It ran a maximum of 80 degrees, but that also limited performance. But that's a good thing because the voltages weren't spiked up too high, the temperature wasn't running too high. That was causing the issue with the instability. And now that we do have the microcode update after like 2 years, now it's pretty safe. Well, it's safer. We don't know about Intel. They don't even know what they're doing right now, but now it's good that we can run these at full with cooler temperatures, run it at the 253 Intel default limit, and it's really an amazing build. But that is a complete finished build. And I'll need to be working on this one soon, so this is a whole separate video, but I painted this one outside. So we'll see how that one comes out. But for now, that is the 13900K with the 4090.